third. I didn't know David until yesterday. And one of the things that I think makes this conference so extraordinary is that we've really tried to have people and leaders speak on all of these spaces who are not who are traditionally in the homelessness conference circuit, right? No, we don't have people in suits talking to us about federal government rules. We're trying to make way for power and lived experience and basically the kind of leadership that we need that Dr. Green talked about this morning. David is, and he has this book. He has this book that I'm sure he will talk to us about what he wrote in his experience when he was incarcerated. And now, since he's been out, he works to educate youth and people around what it means to do this work the right way. It pleases me so much to bring David Gethers up here to give us our lunchtime keynote. Hi, David.
First, we'll start off with a word of prayer. I don't mean to be offensive to anybody, so if you don't believe in the Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, if you don't like to participate in prayer, it's okay. But that's how I start all my presentations. So give me a second. Dear Heavenly Gracious Father, we are children. We're gathered here today to hear a word from you. Dear God, we're here at this very moment because we want to learn how to do things the right way. We want to learn how to do things in the effective way. We want to learn how to do things in a positive way. So dear God, we ask that you would join us. We ask that you would lead us and you would guide us. We ask that you would touch our hearts, touch our minds, touch our ears, touch our souls. Dear God, we thank you for Destination Home and the entire staff. And dear God, we ask that you will continue to bless them, lead them, and guide them. But more importantly, dear God, we ask that the finances that they use to put on this conference, that you will restore 100-fold. Dear God, we ask that you would give them clear vision. We ask that you would give them insight. Reason being because your word said, that which you have done to the least of my children, you have done unto me. And so they've taken the desire to help your children, to clothe your children, to feed your children, to house your children, so they don't be left out in the cold any longer. And so God, we ask that you will bless their work, bless their efforts, bless their passion, and lead them and guide them in all ways. We stand and pray. Amen. All right, so I got about 30 minutes. I won't be before you long. I promise not to bore you. But I just want to tell you a story. I'm going to start at where I am now, and then we're going to work our way backwards. So today I stand before you as David A. Gethers. I am the owner of 4 businesses: Source Strategy Groups, David A. Gethers Speaks, David A. Gethers Publishing, 2 Gethers Network, and the Social Justice Network. I stand before you with a master's degree in interdisciplinary leadership. I stand before you with a bachelor's degree in communication. I'm a first-generation college student. I am also a United States veteran. I'm a veteran of the United States Marine Corp. I am also justice impacted. Spent 15 years in prison for first-degree murder. Here's my story. I grew up on the south side of Chicago. My mother was an 18-year-old homeless woman. Her mother died, my grandmother died when my mother was 16. My mother was born and raised in Knoxville, Tennessee. Because she was homeless, she found herself in the city of Chicago. She had me her senior year in high school. And it was by the grace of God that the only grandmother I know, she's not my biological grandmother, But she took my mother in, and she started raising my mother. And she's the only grandmother I know. And my grandmother and my mother will be instrumental in me standing on the stage today. So I grew up in poverty. College was not an opportunity for me. So as a way of escaping, I joined the United States Marine Corp. And it was my goal to be in the Marine Corps for the next 20 to 30 years. And so January 21st, 1992, my mother put me on a plane, sent me to San Diego, California, and I started my tour of duty in the United States Marine Corps. In 1996, in 1994, I had a train accident that caused severe damage to my right ulnar bone and nerve. I had to have reconstructive bone and nerve surgery. After 2 surgeries, after 2 years of physical therapy, as a Marine, I heard the words no Marine ever wants to hear, and that's you're unfit to be a Marine. And due to this injury, my military career was cut short. And they told me, young man, there's nothing else we can do for you. And so we're sending you back to Chicago. Sending me back to the place that I thought I had escaped. Sending me back to the place that I never wanted to be. Sending me back wasn't so bad, but it's how they sent me back. I was unprepared mentally. I was unprepared physically. I was unprepared financially. And I was unprepared emotionally. And with that lack of preparedness, I was angry. I was broken. I was hurt. I was mad, and I was disappointed. And so on July 22nd, 5:30 p.m., 1996, I got into an altercation with another black man. I didn't know him, but I can almost guarantee you he was angry. I can almost guarantee you he was broken. I can almost guarantee you he was disappointed. I can almost guarantee you that life had did to him the very thing that life had did to me. Robbed me of my hope, robbed me of my dreams, and robbed me of my opportunity. And unfortunately on that night, him and I got into a fight. And that fight ended with him losing his life. And so on September the 12th, 1998, the Illinois Department of Corrections sentenced me to 30 years in the Illinois Department of Corrections. 1998, sentenced to 30 years incarceration. When I tell you I'm not supposed to be standing here, I'm not supposed to be standing here. Because if you can count, if you can do math, if you can add, I don't get out of prison until 2028, September the 12th. But today is November the 12th, 2024. So how did I get here? Absolutely, I defy the odds. And so my mother came to me one day while I was incarcerated. She said, son, God told me to tell you to start collecting your thoughts. And she says that I left you a journal book for you to collect your thoughts in. And so on January the 1st, 2000, I began to write for the first time in my journal. And I would go on to write for the next 13 years. And in the very first entry, I just wrote. I had no idea what I was writing, had no idea why I was writing. And more importantly, I never thought in my wildest dream that anybody would ever read my writing. At least not while I was still living. They'll find it when I'm dead in the closet somewhere. And think, what is this? And so I would go on and I would just start writing. And so I got out of prison, and because we're talking about lived experience, we're talking about the effects that it had on us. So as I'm walking out of prison, about to experience what I call freedom, so I thought. As I'm walking out the gate, the guard tells me, he said, Gethers, you'll be back in prison within 3 years. I said, why would you say something like that? I'm a model citizen. I took a 30-year prison sentence and reduced it to 15 years, demonstrating that I've changed my life. So why would you speak such death over me when I haven't even been given a chance yet? And it's his words that was the first part for the catalyst of the change. He said to me, because you ain't shit, you don't have shit, and you ain't gonna be shit. And I'm quite sure some of you may have heard those same words due to other circumstances and situations. And those words come because in our society there's this thing called systemic barriers. And systemic barriers take individuals like me and you, because of the color of our skin, because of the mistakes that we made, because of our education or the lack thereof, because of the social economic status that we find ourselves in, and they automatically label us. They automatically determine for us what we can and cannot be based off of a mistake, or based off of an experience, or based off of what we're going through in life. And so, I wasn't mad. I just realized this is what society thinks of. But while I was sitting in prison, while I was writing my journal, I began to craft a plan of what I call transformation, on how I was going to change my life and have a life that I didn't even imagine that I could have based on where I was. So I get out of prison September 12, 2013. This past September made 11 years. And when I walked out of prison, I went to United States Marine University because I wanted to enroll in college and start my college education. So when I filled out the application, there's this little fancy thing on the application at the bottom that says, have you ever been convicted of a crime? And so because I'm being truthful, I'm being honest, I said, yes, I've been convicted of a crime. They asked me to explain. I said, I'll explain upon the interview. Well, because I didn't explain it, and because they was curious about it, they told me I couldn't be a student at United States University. Now we're talking about a social barrier. So after that, I was like, wow, can't go to college, so how am I going to have this transformation? So that was the second rejection that I experienced in less than 60 days of being out of prison. The last one was a little bit funny, then not so funny. I met this woman. And so I decided that, hey, I was going to date this woman. She was of a different social status than I was. She was obtaining her PhD, and here I was just getting out of prison. And so this woman tells me that she couldn't be with a man like me because I couldn't give her the life she wanted to live. Because we're on two different social status. And so she calls me to have what I like to term self-induced barriers. So people with lived experience, we experience three types of barriers: systemic barriers, social barriers, and self-induced barriers. Because my mind began to play tricks on me, making me think and believe that if the system doesn't want me to change, if society won't allow me to change, and everyday people won't give me the opportunity to change, what type of life will I live? And so I began to think that all the accomplishments that I told you at the beginning, I began to think that none of them were possible. See, I shared all of that with you because everything I've done over the last 11 years. When I walked out of prison, all I had was a high school diploma. That was it. I had a high school diploma and a determination that I was going to change my life. So how did I do it? So I shared with everybody the 4 keys to transformation. The first thing that you need if you're going to transform your own life or if you're going to transform somebody else's life, you've got to be able to relocate. Now you would think when I say relocate them, that I'm talking about moving them from one area to another area. And although that relocation is fine, but the real location that I'm talking about is mental, it's emotional, psychological. To get them to understand that who you were, you don't have to continue to be. What you've experienced, you don't have to continue to experience. And whatever it is that you pictured in your mind for yourself, you can still become that regardless of your setback, failures, or disappointments. All we have to do is relocate their mindset. The second thing you need if you're going to transform your life or if you're going to transform the lives of somebody else or you're helping is re-education. Now, because I'm an educated man, you might think I'm talking about going to get a GED, going to get a high school diploma, going to get a college degree, going to get a trade or something. And although those are fine and good, but the individuals that we're dealing with, we need to re-educate them on how to function in society. We need to re-educate them on how to fill out a job application. We need to re-educate them on how to understand a bank account. We need to re-educate them on adverse childhood experience and exposures that they've had. We need to educate them on trauma-informed care. We need to re-educate them and teach them how to just be them and to live with what they have experienced in spite of what society says. The third prong to this transformation is resources. Now, when you hear the word resources coming from me, you may think I'm talking about money, housing, and all those other things. And they're fine and then and they're needed. But the real resource anybody needs if they're going to transform their life, that resource is a village. That's a village of people who actually believe in them. A village of people who are going to support them. A village of people who are going to fight for them. A village of people who's not going to judge them. A village of people who's going to put their arms around them and show them the path of success. That's going to show them how to survive and thrive. That's the village and the resource that they truly need. And finally, they need resilience. Because we have to learn that we have a desire to do better. We have a desire to want better. But regardless of what my desires are, I'm going to face adversity. I'm going to face barriers. And I'm going to face challenges. And in spite of the adversity, barriers, and challenges, none of those things disqualify you from greatness. Failure does not disqualify you from greatness. Mishaps do not disqualify you from greatness. Being unhoused does not disqualify you from greatness. Being drug addiction, alcohol addiction, being an orphan, being pregnant at 16, going to prison, not knowing your mother, not knowing your father, being adopted, nothing disqualifies you from greatness. The only thing that disqualifies you from greatness is your inability to believe that you deserve it. Your inability, which is self-induced barrier, that's the only thing that will disqualify you from greatness. Man can't disqualify you. Systems cannot disqualify you. Organizations, money, nothing disqualifies you. So those are the four areas or the four ways to transform someone's life. And that's how I transformed mine. So let me share with you about the book. It's called Weekday Remedies. W-E-A-K-Day Remedies. And this book was never meant to be published. I told you I journaled for 13 years. After I graduated with my master's degree, a principal in the city of Chicago called me. And she said, Mr. Gethers, I don't know you. I've never met you. But I've heard a lot about you. And she said, I have 10 African-American boys, ages 13. And she said, I'm about to expel them all from school. And she says, and the reason why I'm calling you, because I believe you know what's going to happen to their life if I expel them from school. She says, so you have 1 school year to work with these young men. And if you can't change their life, then I'm expelling them from school. Whatever happens to them is on them. I'm unproven. I don't have, the book isn't written. I don't have no curriculum. I have nothing. All I have is just my own changed life. And so I took this challenge on, and about 2 months into the mentoring program, they kept asking, it was like, Mr. G, can we read your journals? Mr. G, can we read your journals? And my answer was, hell no. No, you're not reading my journal. This is my pain. This is my pain. This is my real life. No, you cannot read. And the reason why I didn't want to share the journal with the young men, because we all have 3 fears. The fear of judgment, the fear of rejection, and the fear of isolation. And I knew if I let these kids read my journal, although they were 13, they may begin to judge me. They may begin to reject me. And they may begin to isolate me and no longer want me to be a part of the mentoring. And so I would go home and we would go back and forth for a few weeks. And one day while I was driving home, I heard God say to me clear as day, if you're going to take somebody on a journey of transformation, you've got to show them scars. And so with that, I took one of my journal books. I had 3 journal books. And I took to Kinko's and I asked him, I was like, can you Xerox? And I'm asking the person nervous. And I'm asking, like, hopefully he'll say no. And I'm like, can you Xerox these? He was like, I sure can. So now I'm like, wow. So he's like, what do you want me to Xerox? I was like, I don't know, just copy 10 of them. He's like, what do you want me to do with them? I'm looking like, put them in a binder or something? I mean, because again, I don't have no idea what to do, so he put about 10 copies in a binder. He made me 10 binders. And so nervously, I walk into the school building that Monday with these 10 binders, about to give them to these 10 African-American, what society called at-risk youth. And the first journal entry we read was called Anger. And I talked about my anger. And I talked about where it came from. And I talked about how I was dealing with it or how I didn't deal with it in an appropriate fashion. And as a result, I talked about how the anger caused me to go to prison. Well, 1, take another man's life. 2, caused me to go to prison. And so after I read the journal entry on anger, we began to discuss it. And after we got done discussing it, I challenged them to write about their own anger. And these young men wrote about it. They brought it back the next week, and we talked about it. And so 2 things were born out of that day. The first thing was born was called the 5 Yards Mentoring Program with those young men. So now this mentoring program I use all over the country, teaching justice impacted people, veteran you how to defy the odds and become the very best them they were created to be. And the second thing that was born out of that was Weekday Remedies, the journals. And so after I got done with the kids, God was like, that was your test pilot. He's like, now I want you to share with the world. Okay. I'm like, share with the world? I can handle some 13-year-old kids. I mean, look at me, I'm 6'1", I'm 250. They didn't get out of hand. It's all good. But now you want me to put my soul on full display for the world? And God told me, just like I'm talking to you all, he said, because there's millions of people who are dealing with life issues that will never have someone like you able to talk to them directly. And so I was like, okay, well, if I'm going to share with the world, I got to clean it up. So I get on my nice, fancy computer, and so I'm trying to clean it up and make it look nice, because the publishing company told me that the way it was written, that it was literary suicide. It was literary suicide, so like it had to be cleaned up. And so I tried to clean it up. And as I'm trying to clean it up, God says, I don't want them cleaned up. I want them in their original context. Because the people who's going to read it, they're not cleaned up. So why would you take them somewhere they're not ready for yet? So this journal book is in its original writing. It's in my handwriting. And so it has misspelled words in it. It has scratched out words in it. It has a very poor usage of grammar and punctuations. And it has tear stains in it. And when I set out to write the book, I was just following God's lead. That book became a bestseller. And the reason why it became a bestseller is because of people like you in the room with lived experience who have real pains. And so to read a published work of somebody who had the same pain, but yet each journal entry, it gives you a remedy, gives you an answer, gives you a solution, it gives you a way to deal with the pains that you're dealing with. And so that's how the book was birthed, all because of some 13-year-old kids asked to see my journey. And ever since then, I've been traveling all over this country. And I go to conferences and I work with organizations, and I give them a practical view of what it takes to transform somebody's life. We have theoretical views, but the problem with theoretical views is they're coming from individuals who don't have lived experience. So you're telling me what you think it will take in order to transform somebody's life. And my work is based on what it actually does take to transform somebody's life. Not because I'm educated, not because I have the business, but because I'm the empirical data of it. I was sitting in CASA, I'll get out of your way, I was sitting in the office of CASA of Cook County, where I now, I work with them on a contract, I'm creating this transformational model. And I remember the CEO was asked a question by one of the board members. The board member was like, well, where's the empirical data that he could do this work and show us all the people that he's successfully helped over the last few years. And so the CEO said, he is the empirical data. And that's what I want to leave you all with. You are the empirical data. Come on. You are. No one can tell the story better than you. And so, from this day forward, one of the things that I highly recommend, if there are going to be conferences all over this country to deal with the adversity, barriers, and challenges that we face, then those conferences need to be headlined by us. Because we are the empirical fact. Can't nobody tell the story better than you. Can't nobody create the policies better than you. I'm going to take it a step further. Can't nobody lead the program better than you. Nobody. Say it again?
Can't anyone lead the organization better than you?
And can't nobody lead the organization better than you. None whatsoever. And so, I have a 5 years mentoring program. We have the book Weekday Remedies. And I'll give you all an early teaser. The second book is in production right now. It's called The 5 Years, A Man's Journey to Transformation. And so you'll be able to get that book soon as well. And my objective is to print all 3,000 copies of my journals. So when I went to that guy at Kinko's, once I did the first one, I went back to him, and what he did for me was he took all of the journals, he Xeroxed them all, put them on a thumb drive for me, so that even if I die, the journals will live forever. And my trust has the copyrights to it, so that my trust will keep producing them even after I'm dead. Because I want all 3,000 to be published so that people can know that you can go from the worst situation in your life, whatever it is, you can go from the worst situation in your life to the best situation. And to make sure that they get published, and I have to worry about some publishing company tell you about literary suicide, I started my own publishing company. And so, if you have some work that you won't publish, and people tell you that you can't publish it, my publishing company will publish it for you. But not only will we publish it for you, what we do is we teach you how to own your own rights. So all I'm going to do is consult you on the publishing. You're going to become your own publisher, and you're going to keep the rights to your work, your products, and that way you get every penny from me, not me and not somebody else. So there's all of my information on the screen. So if you want a copy of the book, if you want consulting, if you want anything to help you with the program that you have, all you got to do is reach out to me, and I am more than willing to come join you. So now I'm going to give you an opportunity to ask 3 questions about whatever you heard today, and then I'm going to get out of your way. So 3 people, if any 3 people, or if not, let y'all go on about your business. I saw your hand there, sir.
Over here?
Yeah, you.
Over here? My question is, what's next?
What's next?
Yep.
I don't know. I go with the flow. Like I told you, the new book is coming out, so I'm producing that. My contract with CASA ends in January, so I'll be done working for them. I created a 24-month program. So you know what? I do know what's next. Because I'm going to take that program that I created for them, and I'm going to turn it into a national curriculum, and then start producing it and selling all over the world. Yes, ma'am? Funny thing is, no, I don't journal anymore. After I got done with college and all that writing, I was like, I need a break. I'm tired of writing, so I haven't journaled in about 6 years. That's a good question. I don't know.
Journal out that curriculum.
I'm gonna pay somebody to do that. get it to them, tell them to do it. When I say I'm tired of writing, I'm tired of writing. I'm tired of writing. I'll record it, though. Yes, ma'am.
Do you have any books here, and are you going to do a book signing? Come on now.
So, I didn't come here to sell my family anything. And so I brought a few copies and I just gave them out. I've been giving them out throughout the whole entire conference. So, however, all the information you can find. Now listen, if you get it off of Amazon, it will not be signed. If you order it from me, from there, you'll get a signed copy. You'll get a signed copy and you'll get one of the 5 yards wristbands.
First thing I want to say is, I know we all said it in this room. I'll be the first one to say it. First off, welcome home, simplify, hoorah. Let's get that out there.
Okay.
Second of all, you go back to the same prison you were in to teach the younger people that are going through what you went through when you were going through that situation.
Unfortunately, I can't go to the prison in Illinois. Their policies and all of that prevent me from going to prison in Illinois. However, I go into prison in other states, and I teach the programs, and I work with youth and justice impacted individuals to help them transform their lives.
Have you spoken to the gentleman who inspired you to do this? The one that told you you weren't going to be anything?
So,
Love to.
I remember his name. His name is Kenny Lobster, but I cannot find him anywhere.
Oh, maybe.
I have been looking for him for 11 years. Because I just want to have a conversation with him. I just want to talk to him. Catch up with him, you know what I'm saying? Catch up over coffee. See where his life is at. Hey, let's be honest, I'm a little petty. Dr. Lamont Green gave me permission this morning also to be a little petty. He said because we show up with our issues, right? So I'm being a little petty. So one final question about y'all's way. Is it? Yes, sir.
So I was wondering, you mentioned how you use the ACEs. So I was wondering what capacity do you use the ACEs and how helpful it is?
So I use it very, very heavily, especially when I'm dealing with juveniles, because all of us have adverse childhood exposures or experiences that shape who we are. And so when I use it, I ask 3 questions for my youth, and all of you are free to use it for them going forward. What are the experiences that you've had that still show up in your life today? When those experiences show up in your life today, what do they look like? Because you gotta know what it is. You gotta know how it shows up. And then the final question is, what are some of the things that trigger you to cause you to behave the way that you behave? Because if we don't use, and I use ACEs to address those issues with my group, because if you're going to change a behavior, you got to be able to identify the behavior, you got to be able to recognize the behavior, and you have to know the catalyst behind the behavior. Elsewise, no change whatsoever will take place. And so it's been very helpful for our demographic of people that I work with to use ACEs, and that's pretty much what we was using with the book. Me and the young men, we were just sitting there just talking about what our life issues were, and how we were being triggered, and how we were responding, stuff of that nature. So now I got one final thing. Before I leave, I need my family to get together with me. We're going to take one big group family picture in front of the sign. All right? So my name is David A. Gethers. I approve this message, and I thank you all for listening.